Yes, and I think agile is often misunderstood. And people have this perception of agile as basically, for people who don't like process, you do agile. It's kind of like an excuse for not really having a process. And that really isn't the case. Agile actually is a very legitimate and well-defined process. Now, there are lots of variants and flavors of it. But I really think of it as fundamentally a results-oriented method that is focused on delivering value every day and then being able to substantiate and validate that value every day. So that as opposed to a traditional approach where you may not actually see the value until months, maybe quarters into the process, with Agile you'll see the results immediately. You'll see the results within hours or days, and you'll keep seeing it. And I think the other major component of Agile is the multidisciplinary approach. We've had a tendency in the past to, in the same way that Ford broke apart the jobs of making a car into very, very compartmentalized jobs, where one person never got to see the whole thing. With Agile, we've really worked to sort of recombine them, to create a multidisciplinary team where the product owner works very, very closely with the developer, with the tester, in an orchestrated way, in a highly integrated, highly collaborative way. And again, I think the key here is that you get the right product to market at the right time, with the right features, the right function, and the right quality. And I think Agile, at its heart, is really about that. It's about getting the right product at the right quality at the right time, and doing so in a much more iterative fashion, a much more results-oriented fashion. So I'd say Agile is already quite mainstream for work done here in the US, particularly in the R&D field, not so much in the IT organizations, but in the R&D field, it's already fairly widely accepted. Where it's still really not got traction is in the global perspective. If you look at global R&D today, most global R&D today is still done through a more traditional waterfall-based approach. Let's really tie a ribbon around a specification, throw it to them, tie the fees to the work product they bring back. And I think that's really set to change. That is really starting to change now. More and more of the work we do globally leverages a global paradigm, leverages a global model where an Agile team may indeed be distributed. Parts of the team may be here in the US, parts of the team may be in China, in Ukraine, in India, and they may all, in fact, be part of one team. So that's really the big change that's taking place right now. Certainly 5-10 years ago, it would have been very hard to do Agile in a distributed model. Today, it's much, much easier with the tools that we have available to us to collaborate across distances, to share knowledge across time, to share ideas and information. I think it's much, much easier today. So it's still not as easy as if everyone's sitting in the same room, but it's dramatically easier than it was, and I think it really has become feasible now to do, where even just 4 or 5 years ago it wasn't. So that's really the big shift. So I think the one big thing that's still holding organizations back is domain knowledge. There's no question that in India and China and Russia you have great technical competence. Even now increasingly great R&D skills. What's lacking still today in many of these locations is really a good understanding of the business problem, of the domain itself. And Agile, as I mentioned earlier, relies very heavily on a tightly integrated multidisciplinary team where product owners work very, very closely with the developers. And so this domain knowledge is increasingly key and is the factor that I think is holding this back still. And so I think that's another important trait as you look for ways to globalize your R&D. Make sure that you're not just putting emphasis on R&D skills, but you're also increasingly putting emphasis on domain skills. Do they really understand the domain that I'm working in? If I'm trying to build a payment system, do they really understand payments? Can they actually play the role of an end user for the system that I envisage building?